Hello.
Are you the father of Daniel Avery?
He was walking the road to Santiago de Compostela, 800 kilometers on the northwestern coast of Spain. This is everything he had when we found him. People have walked the path for over 1,000 years. The way is a very personal journey, Mr. Avery.
Daniel was my only child. We're gonna walk the Camino to Santiago, both of us.
This movie came out originally, how many years ago now?
This is now 12 years ago. It came out in 2011.
And we gave it a Movieguide award because of all, the faith content that you guys had in it. And, how is it for you to, revisit it?
Well, initially, it was all we could do was sort of rescue the movie out of movie jail. When we finished our very brief theatrical run back in 2011, it was then on DVD and it was on the streaming platforms, but it kind of, we kind of lost our steam. And it just as far as mainstream, where it began to sort of get this cult following, and people started now, checking out not only the movie, but then being inspired to go walk the Camino. And then the chatter began, and then it was just like, it sort of took on its own life. But then the movie disappeared, and it went sort of into movie jail. And I had to rescue it by way of Ocean Avenue Entertainment. Chris Blender called me a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, man, I think I can help you rescue your movie. It's held up in this court, and it's motion to abandon rights, and blah blah blah." I said, I would love that, because the snail mail comments continue to creep in to my life about how important the movie was, how it changed people's lives. So now coming back out, I think the movie has a different relevance, and I think it's resonating with people, especially post-COVID. People are just like, hey man, I want to reconnect. I want to reconnect with family, my faith. I want to reconnect with the things that I was so isolated from. And the movie kind of serves as an opportunity to do that.
And, I was watching it again with my husband last night, and, it doesn't feel like 12 years ago, right? It's totally pertinent to today also, it
Right.
doesn't matter what people are wearing or anything like that. It really feels like, this movie could have been just made, this year or whatever.
Right.
Your father's character, he says, he's the successful doctor, and that's his thing, that he needs to reevaluate, his priorities. Like, should he put his son first? I guess I should have you say this in your own words. How do you feel about that theme, and the different themes that his character has to learn through the movie?
Well, I think what's interesting about this is that he was not willing to meet his son even halfway. So we see really the only two scenes I have in the movie where I speak, there's friction between he and the father. And the father's unwilling to sort of see the son's perspective. It takes the son's death for the father to make the journey to find out who his son was and is ultimately. And the father at the end of the movie, in many ways, becomes the son. He becomes a traveler. He becomes a citizen of the world. And we see that reflected in that last shot. We went to Morocco for that. And it was just one shot on a 600 millimeter lens. And they said, well, why are you going all the way to Morocco? I said, because it's important to see how Tom has evolved and how Tom has ultimately become Daniel at the end of the movie. And so I think that it was a valuable location to go and capture.
And what would you kind of say it says about grief? I've, over these past few years, I lost my mother, and so I understand the movie in a different way, right? Because the first time I saw it, and actually I did the junket with you in New York, I saw it in one way where I wanted to be a traveler, and now I see it as a grief, a little bit more about grief because of my experiences with grief. So what would you hope, people get out of it in terms of that?
Well, I think that we all need to process grief, and I don't think we have. How do we grieve properly? and take the time to do that. And I'm not sure people really do that anymore. I think that social media and just media in general has sort of, our eyeballs and our brains are going in so many different directions that we're always looking for what's next rather than what's now. And what's now is, you know, we're only, we're living in the time that we have, and we're no longer really in the moment anymore. I think that the movie really forces you to take a look at what it means to take 40 days to walk this pilgrimage, to walk this Camino, to walk in grief, but also in that grief, come to a better understanding of who you are and how you process things. And so for me, the movie is, like you said, more relevant and more resonant now than it was when it was originally released.
Now, you wrote it and you directed it. I mean, this must have been a real passion for you, right? What was it that what did the Camino mean to you, or what did, just the premise of the movie mean to you personally?
Well, for a couple of reasons. I mean, it was an opportunity for me to film in Spain. My son lived there. In fact, he got married to his wife that he met on the Camino 6 years before. So he got married in 2009, the year we started filming. So for me, it was important to be there, to not only honor him by filming a picture there, but also my grandfather's from the north of Spain, from Galicia. And he was born about 50 miles from Santiago de Compostela. And I dedicated the movie to my grandfather. So I'm there because of my son. I'm dedicating the movie to my grandfather, and my father is the star of it, which for me, as a director and as a son, I felt like it was one of the great gifts that I could give to my father, was to not only honor him as an actor, but really allow him to portray a character that was so unlike him. My dad has never met a stranger. He's a devout Catholic. He speaks Spanish when he tries to. Anyway, he's a very gregarious guy. Tom isn't. Tom lives in his bubble. Tom is struggling with his faith. Tom is not a citizen of the world. And so we kind of, it was an opportunity for my dad to play a real character that was so unlike who he is. And so the movie really, for me, fires on a lot of different cylinders. And again, to be able to sit in a movie theater and watch it on the big screen after it's essentially been in movie jail for years is it's just a thrill. And I'm grateful to Fathom Events for getting behind it and really, again, believing in the film and getting it out there. We're going to be on almost 1,000 screens.
Oh, great.
So that's more than the movie ever has experienced. And a whole new generation is seeing it. And it just feels like the timing on this is, again, to your point, feels more in tune with the context of the movie.
And it must have felt great to do something with your family in an industry that doesn't, you grew up with your family in this industry, but it's not like you're always working with them, and so that's probably a level of nice comfort and meaning to it and purpose. And what would you also say about kind of the faith elements? We're a faith outlet. So what would you like the faith audience to kind of get out of it from this?
Well, that we don't live alone. We live in community. And that is what I think that the movie and the Camino offers. It offers us an opportunity to reconnect with community. Again, coming out of the pandemic, so isolated, and we crave that connection. And the movie is about connecting, and it is also about connecting with people who you disagree with, people whose lifestyles you may not see eye to eye on at any level. However, aren't some of the best lessons we learn from people that we may disagree with, or people that we don't live in the same country as, or I think, get a broader understanding of the planet when we see and live in the moment with other people from all walks of life. And that is, I think, at the end of the day, what the film is really all about. It's about being a citizen of the world and being in living your living your life in a way that is contributive, and you're making that, you're making the conscious decision to be out in the world rather than be isolated.
You don't choose a life, Dad. You live one.